Hello, amazing souls. Welcome to the Soul Vibe Insights Podcast, a show to demystify the soul, intuition, and the Akashic Records. We know a thing or two about the ups and downs of being on a spiritual growth plan and how to find the higher perspective, even when it seems like there isn't one. I'm your host, Matty Hollingsworth.
And I'm your host, Emily Pearl. We've been professional intuitives and energy healers for over 20 years now. We believe each of us are on a unique path of growth and learning, and our intuition is meant to be our guide. The problem is, most of us have never learned how to use it. That's where we come in, helping you discover how your intuition works and the lessons your soul has chosen to learn in this life is what we're all about.
All right, y'all, let's jump right into today's show. Hey there, amazing souls, and welcome to today's show. This one's going to be all about past life regression.
Specifically, Matty's past life regressions.
I'm going to get really personal with my experiences with past life regression and try to demonstrate why you'd want to go through it, what the awareness can bring, what sort of healing can come from it, and just how freaking cool it is to immerse yourself in a different lifetime, in a different scenario and scenery that is foreign to you, but at the same time hits deep, because there's almost always that, yeah, I've been interested in this, or I know that, like, oh, that makes so much more sense to me now, why I love X, Y, or Z, because I actually used to live there, or I actually used to do this for a living. There's just a myriad of ways and things, and it can get really cool and really fun and kind of intense and maybe a little bit scary at times too. But for me, overall, I just think it's super cool. Even going through the intense and trauma healing experiences that I've done, I walk away like excited about past life regression and always look forward to facilitating sessions and having more for myself.
Yeah, we thought we'd switch up the format a little bit today and do a Q&A type session where I will be asking Matty questions about his past life experiences. But we're not going to just go into past life regression. We're going to talk about all the different ways that he's accessed past lives so far in the last, 20-something years?
Yeah, really since I started my Reiki training, so 20 years ago.
Yeah, so 20 years ago. So we're going to do a rundown on that, and then we're going to talk really in depth about past life regressions. So it's going to be really interesting, and Matty's had some crazy experiences, so it's going to be really cool to hear all about them. I mean, for me, it's not the first time I'm hearing about them, but I still get excited to hear about them because they're very interesting.
Well, and I only know one question that you're going to ask me. You've purposely not told me what you plan on asking, so I'm kind of curious to see what you're going to end up asking me and what's going to come out of my mouth.
Well, this will be good practice for your that intuition, that spleen channel, spleen to throat. Well, so let's start with, what are all the ways that you have accessed past lives? Let's see. I know you've been taking notes because that's the one question you know. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different ways in the past 20 years.
And I just thought of another. So
9 different ways in the past 20 years. Oh, totally. So let's start with the very first time that you ever accessed a past life.
I did try to take my notes in the order when I was kind of going through my brain and taking things out of the file box and being like, yes, this happened and this happened, ooh, and that happened. So the very first time I ever accessed past lives was, I'd heard about the method of being in a dark room, having your intention set to access past lives, to be shown something while staring at a candle and being about 4 or 5 feet away, just comfortable, getting into a meditative state.
Weren't you also in front of a mirror?
No.
Oh, no?
No.
Oh, okay.
There is that way, but I never did that. The candle was so effective.
Oh, okay,
for me.
Cool.
You can also stare into a mirror and see if you transform. But I really like the idea of just chilling on my couch and running some Reiki energy and getting all like, yeah, I feel good. I'm high vibes. I'm relaxed. I'm feeling meditative. All right, candle, I'm staring at you now. And I just ask my soul to show me past lives, to let me see who I've been before.
So did anything come up?
On the other side of the candle, so the candle is lighting up the face.
Whoa,
For
really?
me, it was like a face and maybe shoulders. That was it. I wasn't seeing like big scenes. And it was kind of like, you've ever flipped through a picture book that tells a story and you like, and like flip really fast and a story happens? Faces were just flying through.
Really?
I probably saw 40 or 50 within a few minutes.
Whoa.
And it was like cool but overwhelming, and I couldn't really focus. And I remember just being like, whoa. And I think the idea was to kind of shock me into the fact that human life isn't one and done. I kind of knew that, but it was just kind of like, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And it was just, pop, 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 pop. And then they might slow down for a couple seconds, and they were just changing really quickly. So
whoa, nuts.
I took some breaths after a few minutes, and I said, can you show me these slower? Anything that's meaningful to my life? Is there energy that I'm still connected to that would help me to know about? I'll start exploring. So that was kind of my new intention. And at this point, it was the same thing. The faces just started flashing, and then it was like, stop. So it was like it had to flip through the picture book to get to one in particular, if you will.
Whoa.
And it stopped on a face with an Egyptian headdress. I didn't know if it was pharaonic or just, an official, but this wasn't just a common working Egyptian. I mean, there was a headdress and it seemed regal. And so this person had at least the money to own these kinds of things. So I knew at that point, okay, I've had a high status-ish Egyptian lifetime somewhere where I at least was well-to-do, if you will. I don't know if it was high status. And ever since I was a little kid, I've been infatuated with Egyptian culture, Egyptian history, how it worked, what they were up to. I mean, the pyramids and the temples, it's just mind-boggling, super cool. And my dad, he was into history a lot. He was also kind of a quasi-archaeologist.
Cool.
And every summer he would go to Southern Ohio, because I grew up in Ohio, and he would work in Indian mounds and digs and stuff like that. And he would spend at least 2 weeks a summer. Sometimes he'd go twice.
So cool.
And
I
just
didn't know
immerse
that.
himself in. And then you go out and you have these little like 4 foot by 4 foot plots, and then you slowly like excavate the soil down like a foot, and shake it out through the sifters and see if you can find arrowheads and things. And some of this is farmland, some of this is untouched land, so it was just cool. I went a couple times as a kid, and got to go down for a few, like the weekend, and then he'd drive me back and then go back down to finish out the next week or something like that. So I got to kind of be around, but he always had these National Geographics and anything Egyptian.
I liked National Geographic too.
Oh God, well, I loved it. I mean, and not all of them. I'd look at some National Geographics and the topics and the table of contents and just be like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to go play freeze tag with my friends and go have a good time outdoors and stuff. But anything Egyptian, I was obsessed with. So it was kind of like, hey, yeah, that obsession? It's not just an obsession or not just random. It's because you've had this life that left an impression upon you. So it was kind of like, whoa. That was very interesting for me that the first one it stopped on was something I had, I don't know if attachment's the right word, but just something I had been very into in my lifetime.
Yeah. Well, so let's move on to the second way that you've explored past lives.
The second way was a few years later, I did Rohan therapy, which is, the best way for me to explain it, it's kind of like psychic surgery, if you will, in an energy work foundation. It was what I did as a Reiki therapist, but instead of just somebody being on the table, like for me, I was on the table, but there was also a conversation happening at the same time. The facilitator was very much into the energy and what was going on. And, hey, what did you just see there? Because he could tell that I just got a clairvoyant hit, or what'd you hear? Like he could tell, he knew how I was intuitively picking up the energies as we were moving the energies. But the first session, we got into some past lives. It's kind of what's on the, let's say what's on the surface and ready to be explored in the psyche, to be worked out. I also came kind of wanting to work on something.
Did you have 3 sessions with him?
I had 3 in a row, 3 days in a row.
3 days in a row, yeah.
Or how those sessions went. But that first one, we explored past lives and stuff. And then we got into them a little bit later. It was cool. There was a lot of good energy release and stuff like that with those. I know there's a bunch of these we should move.
Yeah.
We should move through them.
So the third way that you access past lives?
Facilitating Reiki sessions and being shown or hearing or just given past life scenarios that were important to the energy that we were moving in that session, so I could relay it to my client afterwards. Tell them about that. Hey, if this was coming up for you or you were feeling anything around this scenario, this is what I received. And, to me, when I got intuitive hits during a Reiki session, not just how to guide the energy, but actual, like, you should pass this information along. I just figured their guides were communicating with mine and letting me know that, hey, they're going to need awareness around what's going on with this energy to help facilitate the grounding of that change within them. When we're doing healing work, awareness is so clutch. It's so key. And awareness alone can shift so much.
Absolutely.
But when you apply it with energy work as well, and then the awareness of what's happening, why we even want to release or find forgiveness, and then ground that in, it's just amazing. So it can be so key and clutch. So anytime I received awareness, or whatever it was, I would share it. But I definitely got past life scenarios and stuff to share with some of my clients.
Cool. So how was that different from accessing past lives for clients in the Akashic Records?
I would say the biggest difference doing our Akashic soul journey readings for our clients. And, we dive into a few of their past lives that have an energy still today to know about. The things they accomplished, maybe some things they went through that are still kind of nagging along here, and to try to bring awareness so they can move that energy and balance it in their current life is I'm going in with the intent to do that.
Right.
Where in a Reiki session, it was just intuitively moving the energy. But researching the Akashic Records, it was all about past lives. Like in that moment of the research, experiencing that could vastly range from seeing through their eyes and actually experiencing it and feeling what they were feeling and just basically being them in that moment, in that scenario that I'm shown. Sometimes it was like being a fly on a wall and just kind of clairaudiently hearing what was happening and just seeing from like a higher perspective, out of body perspective, if you will.
Right.
There were times that I got claircognizant hits and downloads, and I just knew like this came up. What's that all about? And then I'd have to do further research and ask questions to kind of get to the finer details. The biggest difference was the fact that I went in with that intention versus it happening just naturally, just coming up that it needed to be shared with the client. In this case, the client knows they're going to learn about a few past lives. So I'd say that's the biggest thing. And I guess the other thing is feeling more connected. It wasn't just passing information that needed to be shared after the session. Like in the Reiki sessions, it was
You're actually experiencing it.
There were times that I came out pretty shaken up because of some of the things I'd seen and been
I
through.
remember.
Some wartime scenarios and stuff like that. And then at the same time also coming out and being like, wow, they had a incredible love in that lifetime, and then being able to share like you had a deep love and passion with your partner and you had a family and, you lived to an old age and, getting to experience that, is pretty cool too. So it's not just the negative side of being shaken up. I mean, anything can happen and you're ready for that. And, we know how to clear energy and ground ourselves and keep protection with the divine helpers and stuff. So, I have no worries about what I'm going to run into when exploring past lives or even for myself. I know how to handle what's going to come up. It may surprise me, but it won't be a surprise, if you will.
Right. So for the people keeping track, that was number 4, the accessing Akashic Records through the past life section on our soul journey Akashic readings for our clients. Which brings us to the 5th way.
Guided meditations with the intent of relaxing, getting into a deep meditative state and being taken to a place where you're one with your soul and you're being shown what your soul wants you to know when it comes to past life energies. Usually guided meditations or group meditations. So you don't get the one-on-one facilitation. Somebody's not just working with you, to make sure you're getting everything you can and all the awareness and the healing and the reprogramming of the subconscious mind when needs to happen. And then you don't get to meet your spirit guide at the meeting and go through that part, but it was still pretty cool to take part in some guided meditations. But I'd rather have just a one-on-one facilitator that's dedicated to me.
Totally. So, which brings us to the sixth way. This one was a really big one for you.
Yes. Akashic consultations, which is going in live and opening up the Akashic Records with somebody, with your client, or in this case, I was the somebody. Emily was actually there for this one in particular. One of our Akashic mentors, Donna, was facilitating this. And this actually, I will say that I will share a few details that are very personal to why I was there, but know that there was many years of emotional work and getting myself ready for big releases that would come from this stuff. But what I wanted to work with, and when you do an Akashic consultation, your records are open live, you've got a facilitator, like someone like me with you, and it's all about your free will.
And in the moment.
And in the moment. So what questions you want to ask, and the facilitator might help you, tweak your question to really get at the heart of what you want, because it's very much verbatim. Like, what you're asking is what you'll get. So if you're vague about your question, you may get
vague answers.
You may not get to the meat and taters of what you need to get to for the awareness and the balancing of energy and the healing. And in this case, I went because I had years of childhood trauma, being abused. I'd done a lot of emotional work around this, but I just couldn't quite shake the why. Why did this happen to me? Which I think for a lot of childhood survivors is a big question. Why did this happen to such a young, innocent little one? Like, what could I have possibly done to create this situation? And during this, there weren't a lot of exact details that came up about the past life, just that there was past life energy involved as part of why this came to be. But the big thing that came up was working with my grandfather, who was the perpetrator, and actually getting into what happened in his life, being shown some things that he went through, being shown that, or knowing that I had past life energy wrapped up into this. I also learned that I came to break this cycle of abuse that can get passed down in family lines. And it was a generational trauma. It was something that me and my cousin both came together, so there would be two of us, just in case one of us didn't make it. There would be two chances to break this generational trauma. So I got to work with my perpetrator. I got awareness around what was going on, that I actually came for this. That blew my freaking mind, that my soul wanted this to happen, so I'd have the opportunity to break it and stop it from happening. This whole be abused, become the abuser, not being able to break out of this cycle that had been going on for millennia in family lines. Like I said, that in particular blew my mind, that because I'd been fretting over why did this happen, and it was like it hit me so deep and so true that I wanted it to happen, that I came for this possibility, that this potentiality would happen, so then I could then heal and balance the energy within and end it in my family line.
You're so strong.
I've done a lot of healing, so I can talk about it, but it still hits me deep to bring it up.
It hits me deep too, just thinking that you went through that.
Yeah. But I got a chance to work with my little self too. I got to work with little Matty and see him and know and tell him, you are so freaking strong. I don't know how you did it. I don't know how you survived. I don't know how you didn't turn into the exact thing that you didn't want to, that you came to break the cycle from. I pretty much got to high five my younger self and say thank you whatever you did, however you held that trauma and worked it out, like, I know that I'm a kind person and a good person, and that, you know, I mean, like everybody, I've done my shitty things, and I've had some fucked up moments in my life, but for the most part, I'm a pretty good guy. And somehow little Matty made that happen, helped me turn into who I became, to where I'd even have a chance to like have repressed memories come back and work through years of emotional, just the trauma of it, and work through these emotions and so much anger and fear and the layerings, and to be able to get to the point when I could heal and really truly feel balanced, and to thank my young self and let them go back into the loving light, because that was part of the session too. But knowing this started in a past life of my own, and working through what I actually wanted it to happen, like these kind of things blew my mind, but this was the awareness I needed to finally put those last puzzle pieces together and feel healing from this. And I got to forgive not only my perpetrator, but myself, for putting myself there. Because it wouldn't have happened if I didn't choose to come and incarnate as Matty. So I had a lot of responsibility in it. Not the actual acts. That was somebody else, but I chose to come for this. And so I had to forgive myself. I had to thank myself for being brave. It was a weird morale booster, honestly. It was kind of, I don't know what else to say. Like, I came away just going, wow, I wanted that. I guess I can drop this big, huge badge and weighty badge of victimhood I've been carrying around, and I'm a survivor. I went through 6 years this, that, and tell me you can do more. I had this big, like, it was almost this pride of what I'd been able to go through and what I'd uncovered in my life. But at the same time, by carrying that badge around with me, I was constantly reliving it. I was constantly wearing that badge, so it was always with me. There was never a moment when I wasn't a childhood survivor of trauma, of abuse. Like, what the fuck? Why was I doing that to myself over and over daily? And I got to realize that too. This happened when I was a little kid. And I'm still carrying it around. I mean, that makes sense, but even now I know it. And it was almost like it became a point of pride that I survived it. And now it's more of a, yes, I went through that on purpose to break this cycle within my family line. So hopefully my nieces and nephews and cousins don't have to go through this. And end that energy. It nips it in the bud when you're a cycle breaker. It sends it backwards in your line, it nips it in the present and sends it forward. And there are a lot of cycle breaker souls here on earth that I have discovered through Akashic research, through my own personal experiences. When stories of abuse and trauma come up, and then surviving and healing and finding a way forward, it's because souls are coming here to break these cycles. Yeah. Quite frankly, I'm freaking sick of what happens in human bodies, the abuse that gets passed on. So if you resonate with this and have gone through things and you have lived to tell the tale, I commend you. You are fucking awesome and amazing to be able to go through what you did and handle it and try to transition your life still in a positive way and to find balance and to find healing. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It is so needed on this earth, because the only way these things stop is if enough of us stops them. And we say no more.
Yes.
And we do
Absolutely.
the personal work. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the hard work, but that's what needs to be done to stop these crazy cycles that keep happening over and over and over, where someone's like, well, it happened to me, so I just keep doing it. Well, this is the way we've always done things. Fuck that. The way we've always done things is not working, and it hasn't worked for so long, so it is time. And baby, you're so brave.
Thank you, honey. I love you.
And I am very biased, but I think you're the best.
That is a reciprocal ditto feeling right there.
So shall we move on to the seventh way?
Yeah, let me just wipe my eyes. Okay. So a couple of weeks after this huge session that I had just mentioned, this Akashic consultation, where I learned that there was past life energy wrapped up in my own childhood experiences, I had a Hands of Light session with this awesome facilitator, Debbie.
Yeah, she's so cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Well, Donna's awesome too, though.
Yeah.
Donna's so cool too.
Yes, I could go on and on about certain people in my life that have come along that I just think are freaking cool. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it, what they do, how they facilitate, the things I've learned from them. It's just cool stuff.
Totally.
And Hands of Light, this is what Barbara Brennan, her healing school. I mean, this is her first book, Hands of Light. If you don't have that, it's a really cool read on energy and how things are at play and how to work with the energy. But I don't want to digress too far down that.
But I mean, Debbie is like a graduate, a long-time graduate, and
like
has
20 years ago or something.
Yeah, so she's like developed her own thing. So I don't know if I'd call it a Hands of Light session per se, but definitely based on some of that work.
Okay,
I can't remember exactly what she calls her sessions, but they're badass.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, continue, please.
So I had this session scheduled anyways. And in this session, I didn't know what was going to happen. I was just really open to the experience. We had been to a 3-day retreat that Debbie led. And it was we knew about Barbara Brennan and had read Hands of Light, but it was our first chance to kind of immerse ourselves and learn some of the techniques and, how to work with the energy the way they do.
It's quite a bit different from Reiki, which is really interesting.
Well, okay, so let's digress for just a second.
Okay.
Like Reiki's basically attracting universal energy
through the crown
chakra, down, in, and out your hands.
Like down through your heart.
Into the heart and out the hands, basically. Yes. And it's there. Now you want to, of course, if you're facilitating, to ground yourself. And with Hands of Light, they teach you to draw the energy up from the earth, up through the root. So you're locked in and grounded up to the heart and out of the hands. So a little bit different flow, but I mean...
super powerful still.
The earth is a sentient being receiving universal energy all the time. I don't want to say there's no universal energy involved, but those are just the two different descriptions. So it's whether you're bringing energy in through the crown to share with the client or pulling it up through the earth to share. Right. Those would be the big differences here.
Yeah.
Okay, digression is over. Tangent done. But in this session, without Debbie knowing what I'd just been through or anything, we get into a past life, which happens to be the past life that came up with Donna a couple weeks ago.
The same one?
This is the past life. And, and she told me that, she goes, I'm pretty sure you recently just learned about this.
She knew that?
She knew that in the session. Intuition and working with energy can be really fun, the connections that can be made. So we get into this session, and I didn't share it earlier, but when I did the candle, there were a few faces that slowed down, and one of them was this, it was from Mesopotamia. It was this like animal skin mask, looked like little finger bones for a mouthpiece, one big slit for where your eyes would be, no ear holes or anything. And in the session with Debbie, I saw this same mask face on this Goliath-like body. I mean, I had to be 6.5 feet or bigger, ripped, huge, and unfortunately, I guess I was the punisher for whoever was in charge in the prisons or whoever needed to be beat down or something. And I did some pretty horrible things while I was in that body. And the reason I came back to break the cycle was because it was in the blood from what I began.
Oh my
It had
God.
been passed down from Mesopotamian times
Whoa.
through generations
That's
of
fucking
abuse.
nuts.
And it's why it was very important for me to choose the family I chose, to be set up in the way that I was, to have that opportunity, to not just break a cycle, but to break a cycle that I fucking started. Talk about mind blown again. Going from knowing I have some past life energy wrapped up to this, how could this happen to me, to realizing this is what you begot. It's time to reap what you sow. Yeah. I was just taken aback by that. And that rung so true, so freaking true within me. And I mean, that was the final puzzle piece of awareness that I needed to heal from my childhood abuse. And I know you can attest to this, it's a lot different for me. If it comes up and we talk about it, from these 2 sessions, I had major physical changes within my body.
Yeah,
I
huge.
had a tooth fall out that had been holding on to this energy.
Yeah,
I was
while you
eating
were eating
soup.
soup. Tomka.
I had, Tomka guy. My tooth fell out. I got that fixed. And then after the session that I had with Debbie, which, by the way, I did once I got to see that life and work through the things that I needed to see, I found myself on a mountain, rolling green hills. It kind of reminded me of Appalachia. I was in Asheville living at the time. Kind of reminded me of those mountains there. Not big peaks with snow and, granite and tall spire-like mountains. I mean, these were rolling hills of mountains. And I looked down this mountain, this path. The sun's rising. It's just kind of in my eyes a little bit. And there's this huge line of people down the mountain. And I knew this is every soul that's been affected. And I just saw myself, like one at a time, they walked up and we hugged.
Fuck.
And as we hugged, they just like dissolved into golden light and disappeared.
Wow.
And it was just over and over, and we hugged and we hugged and we hugged. And I mean, it must have been miles of people. And sometimes it was like things would slow down and I'd see somebody, but other times it was like almost like giving a hug, and it was like I hugged 100 of them or something, because there's no way in the session it took enough time to actually give someone a hug
Right.
like you would in real life, and it'd take a few seconds or 10 seconds, and look into their eyes and but there was this, I'm sorry, I'm grateful that you could pass this on so I could finally do something about it, energy with every one of them. And then they just dissolved into golden light each time. And I finally got done with that line of people. And then out of the rocks and behind the little trees were the children. It was finally like all those people, all those abusers were gone, and now the little kids that had been affected could come out. Their kid selves. And then I got to hug every freaking kid as well that had been affected. And watch them dissolve back into the loving light. Oh, these things blew my mind. But the physical changes that I went through after this session, are all around my sexuality. I mean, it was sexual abuse that I went through. And I have consistently over the years since then have more and more stamina, more virility, more energy and oomph behind my sexuality.
I can attest to that.
My fifth appendage went from average and everybody seemed to be okay with it to growing a couple of inches
Everybody
and becoming
seemed to be
thicker. I mean, nobody I had an encounter with ever said anything. I don't know how you would broach the subject if it wasn't functional enough or big enough for somebody, but
Well, I can definitely attest that it was much bigger afterwards as well.
So I
More
had,
blood pumping through.
yeah, a lot more blood pumping through. But I had these wild physical changes, a tooth falling out that needed to be gone, that had been holding this energy. Things got way bigger. My sexual energy is more virile, way stronger now. So
Woohoo!
it's wild, the kind of healing. And sometimes it's just healing and it's emotional and mental. That stuff's amazing too. But sometimes we go through these past life experiences and we come out on the other side physically different as well, not just emotionally or mentally different and more grounded, or we've balanced that energy. But, you know, I've experienced physical changes within me as well from these experiences.
So how long ago was that?
4.
4 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, this summer. This 4.
And I will say, on top of that, another physical change for you has been just that you're just way more grounded in your body. You have more connection to your body, just period. You're not like disconnected. You've been able, like, since we've been working out, you're just like way more connected. You're seeing results quicker because of that connection and groundedness.
That's true
within
too.
your body.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't have the fear of sleeping. I mean, I went from really not being able to sleep away from home. You know, I had serious issues with it, or I'd have to use cannabis heavily to sleep and stuff typically, to where, I mean, we talked about this now that we've been traveling for a few years. It's, what was it, like 70,
Yeah.
70, I can't remember how many it was now, but 70 something different homes I've slept in, hotels. I seem to have no issue with being able to lay down and go to bed. I don't have those kind of fears. Even though I'd share a bed with people that love me, you know, like you, but I'd still have this weird fear of like being in bed and sleeping and stuff. Just this weirdness that was being held within my body because I hadn't balanced that energy completely. You know, as I was working through things, it hadn't been balanced yet.
Yeah, I mean, when we first got together, you wouldn't even spend the night in my apartment with me.
I did some.
But you didn't. We're not comfortable.
No, not comfortably.
And I feel like you left a couple times.
I did. I just, you know, when it's 4 or 5 in the morning and I'm still awake and I can't sleep and I'm fidgety, give you a kiss and tell you I just gotta go.
Yeah.
Yep.
So needless to say, things have changed.
Yeah, they have, big time.
Especially in the last 4 years. But I mean, things were changing before that point, but big time in the last 4 years. So moving on to the 8th way, which is kind of the 8th and 9th that can kind of be grouped together.
Yeah. So the 8th would be facilitating past life regressions and spirit guide meetings. So getting to experience somebody else's past life intuitively at that point. And, you know, I'm there at the ready, fully conscious. They're in a deep meditative state and they're relaying information to the questions I'm asking, because I'm trying to facilitate them getting good nuggets of information and having a well-rounded experience. I feel like that's definitely a part of past life regression, is not just going in and achieving important information, but hey, what do you sense around you? What's going on? What's happening in this scenario? Let's move to a significant moment in your life. And then that soul just takes themselves there, and then we figure out what's going on. And then after that, it's like, okay, well, what's important here? Let's make sure that if we need to, we're, you know, relearning the scenario so we can pull this into the present lifetime and stuff. But, you know, we want to experience it. It can be such a rich experience to delve into a past life, to be in that meditative state. And I've also, the other one would be receiving past life experiences for myself.
Yeah, the ninth one, the 9th way. And so how many past life sessions, past life regressions have you done so far?
I've had 6 past life regressions.
Yourself, yes.
Myself. One was in a group scenario when we were in class, just to be kind of shown what it was like to facilitate a group scenario. So I've had 5 past life regressions where, you know, I was the client and had a facilitator myself and experienced different lifetimes that way. But it's just something that, you know, you want a well-rounded richness of detail if you can. And you want to experience happy times if there are any, you know. I mean, every lifetime's a mixed bag. So you want to experience the happy, you want to experience the significant, whatever that is. That could be happy or traumatic.
Yeah, the reason why you're there, you definitely want to experience that.
Yes. You want to experience if there's anything that, there's any energy or a piece of you that you've left or a fragment behind. Let's find that and gather that gather that energy back up into that soul that's your client. Let's help them get more whole again if we can. You know, and there's always, your spirit guides and your soul knows there's energy. You're being shown a past life because there's energy still at play in your lifetime now, or themes that are similar. So, hey, look at what you've done here. Look at what your life was like, how you accomplished it. What could you take from that and apply it to your life now? Oh, you're feeling, you know, down about something or tired about something. Hey, you know, you kind of had this lifetime that was pretty rough and your soul's been a little tired from it. But it doesn't have to be that way now. And having that awareness around that can be like, oh, I'm going to flip the script. I'm not just this way. I've actually got what Emily and I would call a past life hangover. There's energy from a past life hung over into this lifetime.
Yeah, you see that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and these things can be healed and they can be balanced, especially when you go get the awareness around it and do a little bit of the energy work with it.
Well, do you want to talk a little bit about your past life regressions? The 5 that you experienced? Or at least like one main one? I know we're getting low, or I know we're
I would love to
getting close to time.
Talk and share more
okay.
about my experiences. Absolutely. So do you just want me to go into some of them?
Sure.
Then?
Yeah, tell me about the first 3-hour session that you did.
The first session would be, I was a girl named Sarah. This was early-ish 1800s. I think it was like around 1820 or something like that. You know, 1815 I was born somewhere. I remember in Colorado, but me and my brother moved to St. Louis a little bit later in life. At this time, everything in America that's not New York or Boston is pretty small. I mean, St. Louis was probably like a town of 8,000 people or something like that, and it's this sprawling metropolis a couple hundred years later with millions of people around in the area. But I went there, and it's important to note that my main life lesson is about respect in my current life. And when you have a life lesson, they take many lifetimes to work through, to really go through these themes of, in this case, respect and self-respect. And
yeah, I think it's like 5 to 15 lifetimes.
I would say several, just 5 to 15 lifetimes to fully immerse yourself into that theme over and over again, from all different scenarios, from the different genetics and environments you've been raised in.
Yeah, to fully integrate it into your energetic makeup.
I got a big dose of what low self-esteem and self-respect look like. And I took a job when I got to St. Louis, basically washing sheets and cleaning up after a family. And the family wasn't bad to us that worked there, but it was basically like they never had to clean up after themselves. They were just slobs and awful, and you know, the things that you would find in bed sheets, the fluids and whatnots that you had to scrub out and stuff. And I very much felt like this was my lot in life and what I deserved. And I was so low energy, but it was almost like, whatever. This is what I do. I'm just going to do this. I don't deserve anything important or big. But I found out in this past life regression that I came with a mission, and that was to meet Dan. Oh my goodness. The first time I saw Dan, my heart just melted. He was making a delivery to the house, and I got the flutters inside and all warm and fuzzy feeling. And it turns out Dan's soul was Emily. So I was also being shown another lifetime that I had a deep love for the soul that is Emily in this lifetime. And it was very much a love at first sight kind of experience for me.
You were so giggly after this session. Gosh, it was so funny.
I was so giggly.
Anytime I said the word Dan, he would like get little shivers and just giggle like a little schoolgirl. It was like the funniest thing.
Yeah, and totally like a little schoolgirl. Like I was totally in the Sarah vibe and everything, Kind of like when you get married and you call your husband or wife for the first time. You're like, my hubby or my wifey or something. And you're like, Your relationship hasn't changed, but everything's changed at the same time. And there's this energy, this giggle that kind of comes with it. It was totally that was going on for me.
I still feel that way though when I'm like, my husband.
Mm-hmm. The mission was to meet Emily, and we were to start a business together. And I couldn't shake myself out of washing for this family and cleaning up after them.
Well, I think it was more the mind frame that you couldn't shake yourself out
yes,
of.
exactly. I couldn't get myself out of
That's your lot
that
in
lack
life.
of self-respect. That's my lot in life. I'm just going to keep my head down and scrub away. So Dan and my brother actually ended up opening a kind of like saloon, with food, and there were some rooms upstairs and stuff like that. And I would go and help clean up in the night times over there too. But that was supposed to be me. Emily and I were supposed to have a business together, which would help us prepare for what we did in this life together. So we'd already have that energy within us that we've done this before. It ain't no thing to start a business. It ain't no thing, but there's a lot to learn and go through to have your own business. But I couldn't get myself out. So the big things I kind of took from that life was I was still kind of feeling tired, and I wasn't respecting myself enough or finding that wherewithal within that I had the energy to now really help others, to create this Soul Vibe Insights with Emily, to do this together, to contribute, to have the mission of wanting to inspire people to create a life with their soul, to get empowerment through self-realization, to develop their intuition, that I could be a part of this.
But I think the biggest thing is that you learned that you're deserving of having it and that you can do it.
Oh, absolutely. Coming out of that life, yeah. And then what I could apply to my life now, definitely. That you don't get to have it if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't realize that you respect yourself enough, that you deserve this just because you're here. Every single one of us deserves our dreams to come true, but we also have to
choose for them to come true.
Choose for them to come true and
believe
seize the
that they
day
can
and
come
believe.
true.
Absolutely. And that is definitely what I could take to apply in this life. For sure. But I guess I was speaking to the similarity, that lack of self-respect. I really hadn't turned on for myself yet and hadn't owned that. I too am a divine being and my dreams get to come true.
Yeah. And deserving of your dreams.
Absolutely.
Well, do you want to talk about the rest, or do you want to maybe pick one more? Because I know we're getting close to like an hour.
I will really quickly just go through the fact that I had a lifetime right before Sarah. I was a young kid, like 12 or 13. My little sister in this life, who I kept a good eye on, is my cousin, who is no longer living in this lifetime. And he was the one that came here as well with the same mission that I did, to break the cycle. So I got to find out why me taking care of him as my little sister in that lifetime, because he always looked after me. He always had my back in this life. He was the coolest. I loved it. I was about to say past tense. I love my cousin Billy. I miss him. He was 5 years older. We were super tight. But he always had my back, and he always seemed to I guess he knew how my granddad could be, and he just seemed to know how to help me through things, even though my memories were repressed and stuff. I don't think his were. And he was a fun-loving goofball on the outside, and, I know he had some pain on the inside, and that became apparent later, but he just always had my back, and, it was kind of like, you took care of me in that life. I'm going to come here and we're going to do this mission together, and I'm going to be older and take care of you this time. Because I spent almost every weekend at my grandparents' house. They were an hour away, so we went down there like 45 times a year at least. All the time, except soccer season. Damn. So we were around a bunch, and he was just always I mean, I was too young to really go hang out with him and his friends, but I always got to tag along. I was always taken care of. I was always looked after and stuff. He was cool.
Aw, that's really sweet.
Yeah. So that's a really neat anecdote that came from a lifetime, you know, to bring some awareness there.
And I mean, how old were you when he died?
Oh, it's been 20 years or so ago now. Yeah.
I mean, I think it was before we met, wasn't it?
Yeah. I got there in '02, but so maybe even before we met.
Well, do you want to end on do you want to end maybe on a lighter note?
Yes.
Because this has been very, very intense, and I'm so proud of you for sharing all of this, because I know it's been hard, but why don't you tell us about your crazy test run?
Oh, okay.
Test run lifetime.
Totally.
And we'll end on this one, because it's fucking crazy.
So I got to experience a solo mission as a vegan soul.
So this is another past life.
This is a past life. I'm a starseed soul. I'm originally from Vega, which is in the constellation Lyra. We tend to have physical-like incarnations like we do here on Earth, and we have nature and, you know, really connected and have that opportunity to have that kind of connection like we do as well here as humans. And one of the things my soul did was I would test run for planets in the solar system before they're ready for life. So I had this past life where I was on a planet that was set up to mimic Earth, but Earth was still geoforming at this time and wasn't ready to have even like Neanderthal life at this point. So I went to test run what it would be like to be around animals and plants and an atmosphere and the elements that would be very similar to what Earth was going to be. And it's, for me, I mean, I could have been anywhere on this planet, and I'm sure I went everywhere, but the big scenes that I saw were in kind of a Southwest-like setting. Red cliff mesas, lush and green, but also like high plains deserty too at the same time. So it wasn't lush and green like back east where canopies of trees are everywhere. There's water supply and lots of vegetation and growth, and then also these like arid, dry, just cool. I mean, think Monument Valley, Sedona type of landscape, like that I am super connected to in this lifetime, but just mind-boggling, beautiful, awe-inspiring stuff. And I'm chilling around this. I remember looking at myself in a creek, and I kind of had what I would describe as like an aboriginal look about me. I had like red clay-like skin. I had marked myself with some sort of white chalk dust. I had big dreads in my hair. I'd just been living out on the earth by myself, you know, even though it wasn't Earth, but I was test running this planet. And the coolest thing was I picked up this trick that I've been able to apply somewhat in my actual life now. I had this one experience where I was up 1,000 feet or so on this cliff, and I saw a hawk flying by. And then the next thing I know, I'm watching the hawk, and I'm also the hawk flying. So my consciousness had moved into the hawk, as well as still having the experience of being this human-like figure watching this hawk fly. And then I can remember the screech that a hawk would make from hearing it through my human ears as well as my hawk ears. Whoa. Out there. And the vision I could see forever. It was so cool. As a human, you know, some of us have really good vision. Mine's good enough. But even 20/20 pales in comparison to what you can see as a hawk.
Right.
And then I saw this leopard running. So I dove towards it in this hawk body. And then the next thing I know, I transferred a bit of my consciousness into the leopard running. And now I was this leopard running down the hill, and power and paws and pounding, and I could feel the power in this body. And I'm a human watching a hawk diving down near a panther, and I'm also the hawk watching the panther and then swooping away. And then I'm the panther running, and I can hear and feel my paws just pounding into this rocky terrain as I'm running. And it was, oh God, like I could feel the power right now just remembering it. And I took this big leap and jumped and came up to this creek that was nearby. And I just looked in and went to have some drink of water. And I could see my panther face.
Whoa.
looking back at me, and the big teeth and the snarl that I could make. Like, it was freaking cool, you know? And I'm very much like a part of this. I could feel how I felt and the power of being inside these animals. And then I see this plant in my panther, and it's delicious, and I just take a big rip out of it, and I'm chewing this plant up. I'm like, I'm grinding my teeth, and the next thing I know, I'm the plant. As the plant, I could realize that I'm this plant looking like I can sense a panther, and I'm the panther that took a chomp out of the plant, and I'm chewing it up, and I'm enjoying the deliciousness of it, as well as being eaten by it at the same time. But there was this immense joy that ran through me. So my consciousness is like, the hawk's gone. I'm a human watching this. I'm the panther eating a plant. I'm the plant being eaten. But the sole purpose for the plant was to grow, to be consumed, to give life. Because that's earth. Earth is life and death. And we have this reciprocal nature about how things work here. How things are alive and become dead and can feed the ground that feeds the next thing that grows to help a human have a life, or an animal. And I very much got to feel my purpose be fulfilled because I was being eaten by this panther to nourish it. I don't know why the panther was eating a plant. I know that we think of how things are here, that these big cats only eat meat and stuff like that, but that's just how the scenario played out.
I mean, the kitties we watch, they love eating grass.
Well, the kitties do, yeah, that's for sure. But they're not panther kitties.
True.
Well, Spooky looks like a little mini Black Panther,
he does
actually.
look like a little panther.
But it was just wild to be able to take my consciousness and move, not just from animal to animal, but to like split it and to enjoy multiple viewpoints. And I think that was the point, was to see how consciousness would work in Earth. Not that it can just be transferred around like I'm talking about, but that how consciousness works, how it works in different bodies, and to come with a divine consciousness of my own to this test run planet, and to be able to, that was the point, was to put it in different places and to experience it and see it and to see how these feelings are, and to be one with the breeze flowing through the trees and uplifting the wings of the hawk. I mean, I got to explore some other things, but this one scenario, it was the most gratifying feeling I've ever felt in a past life regression, and one of the more gratifying feelings I've had in my current life. Like it rivals some of those, of having a purpose fulfilled, of being the plant being eaten, and just the sheer joy of, yeah, I'm going to nourish you. You're going to grow big and strong because of me. Like, it was just this like weird, overly happy, joyous, like crazy, my purpose is fulfilled feeling. It was wild.
Aw.
Experience.
Oh, I think that's such a cool story to end on. I know that I've enjoyed this immensely, being reminded a lot of these things. I know we've talked about them in the past and over the last 20 years, but it's been really cool to be here listening to your stories, because they're just so crazy and cool, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You've come so far.
I have. I've intended to do the healing work, and I didn't know where my path was going to lead me. And, you know, it turned up some crazy shit, but...
Well, I'm happy it led you into my arms.
Oh my. Yes, I am too.
I love you.
I love you.
We love you, listeners, today. I hope you just kind of got anything from this. Just understanding how healing can play out in different scenarios.
If you take anything from this podcast, is awareness and intention. If there are things going on in your life, even if just something seems off and you can't quite put your finger on it, you can't quite explain it, you can't logicize and reason it and just know, then there are things like past life regression that can really help you get past your thinking mind and get into the unconscious and get into the heart of what's going on. They can reveal the things you need to know to bring balance in your life, to bring healing in your life, And that's whatever that method is, whoever you choose to help you, myself or Emily would love to be a part of that. If you want to have a past life regression with us, we'd love to facilitate that for you as well. But just know that you're looking for awareness. You're looking for somebody that's going to help extract those deep nuggets of information that you need, as with a mind for healing. Not just let's go have an experience and see what happens, but let's go have an experience and see what happens, and let's get the awareness that we need to get. And if there is healing that needs to take place in that moment for that past life, let's work on it then and there. And then let's move it forward into your current life. Let's create shifts in your life so you can be a more wholesome, well-rounded, thriving human being. Because we came for all the things and all the lessons, but we also came to thrive. Every soul wants to thrive.
For real. I mean, I definitely think that that's what we all want for ourselves.
As I've learned, so apparently through past lives and in my own experience, you also have to choose it.
Yeah.
You have to want it too.
Yeah, I had some big lessons in that as well. I'm still learning.
I'll put a link in the description to our past life regression sessions.
Yeah, and if you email us directly, we will give you a coupon code for half off.
Yeah, how about that? Send us an email. I always put that in the description as well in case you've got your own past life experiences you want to share, you got questions, or you'd be interested in having a session half off with one of us. Emily just said it, so there you go.
Yeah, so what should we offer these until probably what? Well, we won't be able to do them all the way through November. We'll be able to schedule them in November and December, but there will be some weeks in there where we won't be able to
Yeah, we got holidays
moving
coming up.
from one to the next.
Totally.
So the next couple weeks and then the beginning of December as well.
Sounds good to me. I love it.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found this interesting. And like I mentioned, if you've had your own experiences with past life and want to share them with us, or just have a question, like shoot us an email.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
I always
to hear
put
your
it
experiences.
I always put the email in every show's more information or the description. VIBIN@soulvibeinsights.com. There'll be a link there too. All right. Well, we love you, soul friends.
Yeah, we love you all. Thanks for listening.
Have a good one.
Bye.